Please welcome to the stage Senior Vice President and Chief Commercial Officer for Hitachi Limited, Beverly Ryder.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me. This is actually my first Oracle OpenWorld experience, and can I just tell you, Oracle can put on a party. Oh my gosh. I have talked, met, talked, and talked some more since I got here, and it's just so exciting to hear all of the differing perspectives, and I'm excited to share with you a little bit about Hitachi and Oracle's 20-year partnership. We have just become, or maybe we've been for a little bit, but all three of these things, and hopefully I get it right today. We are a global platinum cloud elite partner with Oracle, and it's such a privilege to be here and to be able to talk to you from that status today. Coming in, I want to talk a little bit about not the big title that came up before, AI, talking about deep learning, talking about 5G, all of the different aspects of what IoT is bringing to industry. I get to talk at a little bit higher level about how ecosystem is really changing the world, how it's changing IoT, and how it's changing the experience for our customers. So looking at driving digital outcomes, what does that really mean? What does it mean to drive a business outcome? We talk about it a lot, right? It's really about customer centricity and about how do we look at what it is our customers need in order to then divide and conquer on how we deliver to them an outcome. We're really at a tipping point today in the industry, in IoT, and in what we can do for our customers. And what does that mean? There are a lot of edge devices. There are a lot of applications. There are a lot of outcomes that we can deliver. But how do we look at our customers holistically and together with our ecosystem bring together solutions that are going to really make a difference for them, whether it's for them in their workplace, whether it's for their business outcomes for their end customers, and so forth. So we're looking at key technologies like AI, like 3D printing, deep learning, 5G, and looking at that hype that's happened in the industry so far. Do you all know what I mean by when I say hype? I mean, oh, there's going to be 50 billion devices. Oh, we are going to turn industries on their head. Oh, tomorrow we are no longer going to use computers. Nope, they're going to be gone. Everything's going to be done on your phone, or better yet, on your watch. Just ask my son because he really wants one of those. So everything is going to be transformed. Well, now, though, we're to a point where we really can accomplish some of those things. We're seeing industries turned over in a heartbeat. We don't know where the next big idea is going to come from, and we're really looking at how do we take our ecosystem, how do we take the software, how do we take the applications, how do we take the hardware, how do we combine IT and OT and all of these things together to really make a difference. So we've talked a lot about hype. Well, part of that is let's do a bunch of POCs, or better yet, let's now call them POVs because that sounds more important. And while those are critical and while those are really important in order, I can't see you in the top, but hopefully I'm talking to you as well. While those are really, really important, and we want to show if you don't look at enterprise-wide solutions, if you don't look at how to cross the entire organization, if you don't include all of the stakeholders in those opportunities, you never get to see the economies of scale that happen. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. So digital transformation impacts everything. What does that really mean? I mean, really, we talk about this all the time. Everything. So what is everything? I actually think the most important thing of everything is how industry, society, connectivity, and digital business is bleeding together. There are no edges of those anymore. I specifically am in charge of a few different divisions. There's transportation, there's manufacturing, there's smart spaces, which a lot of you probably call smart cities. There's a bunch of different healthcare. And what I'm seeing each and every day is our customers are not playing in their vertical anymore. Healthcare is looking at smart spaces. Smart spaces is looking at transportation. It's all blending together to see how can we use all the information, all the different layers, and really put them into one application, one visual tool, one way of looking at the entire world. So what are we trying to do when we're impacting everything? First steps, things are moving to the cloud. Really important, right? We're seeing it every single day. Somebody else is going from on-prem to off-prem. We're looking at individual workloads to full application stacks, looking at leveraging apps. Instead of having 1,000 apps, now you have one. And I'll tell you, I was asking a lot of questions about this particular thing earlier today to make sure I understood it so I could explain it to you. And really what this means is before, just think about something as simple as an HR department, right? It might look simple to those of us that use it, but there might be 50 different apps that are being used. Being able to put that into one concise place so that all of that information is being harnessed for the employer, but also for the employee. So really, digital is impacting just about everything. They said that today, the number of connected devices has actually outnumbered the number of us. So I kicked my microphone, sorry. So say there's however many million of us in the world, there's more digital devices. Well, by 2020, which is only 2 years from now, there will be 3 times as many of them as of us. So what does that really mean? It really means that, I guess the world is our oyster, right? We need to figure out what we're gonna do next. So looking at social innovation is one of the ways that we believe in our partnership with Oracle that we can really impact and that we together with Oracle can make a difference for our customers. We're looking really at the triple bottom line. So what does that mean? Triple bottom line used to be double bottom line. It's always something new. So here it means customers, ecosystem, society, and specifically, it means looking at digital transformation opportunities, looking at the co-creation journey, and how do we do that, and looking at new business models. And new business models in this particular genre are super important. So what do we mean by new business models? Do we mean efficiencies? So we're gonna save money. Doesn't mean we're gonna make more money, we're gonna generate more revenue. Well, that's a great thing if we can figure out how to do it. But now we have to generate more money for our companies, and we have to do it using 10 people in our ecosystem instead of just us, right? In the old days, we did everything. We could do the initial customer appointment, we could deliver what our product was, and then after we deliver our product, we can maintain it by ourselves. In this new system, there might be 20 people in the deal that we're working on. For instance, looking at an industry, say we take a manufacturing line, we're looking at supply chain. We are going to look at all of those suppliers and how they're getting and transporting those supplies to that manufacturing plant. Then once we get them there, we're gonna look at how are we then getting them to where they need to go inside of the plant? Is it safe? Are we following them? Do we know which piece went where? Then we wanna follow which model they got installed in. And then after we do that, we're gonna look at that end unit and we're gonna follow it all the way until it makes it to the consumer. And then we're gonna follow it for who knows how long after that. So you can see in that ecosystem, there are so many people that are part of that ecosystem and are part of that value generation. So looking at new business models is super important. So let's talk a little bit about new business models, right? They are amazing. And we actually have new ones that come up each and every day. I always tell my 13-year-old, like, you need to be the one that's gonna come up with the next one, right? Because who knows, it can be any of us, it can be any day. Who ever thought that I would be ordering my food, or my son's food, I should say, at McDonald's, and they're gonna deliver a McDonald's to my house? Like, I wouldn't have told you that was possible 2 years ago. Now all of a sudden he's ordering McDonald's, it just shows up at the door. I would have never thought that instead of staying in Marriott, which I like to do, I would now be looking at Airbnbs when I go abroad. It's better, it's good for family, you can fit more people in a room, might be 1 bill instead of 5. So all of these different models are just really changing. And one of the things I was thinking about in the new business evolution and in the transformation evolution is if you think about the efficiencies and the savings and the new models and you put them all together, right? It's really about focusing on the customer. So any of you, you wake up in the morning, I don't know what wakes you up, my iPhone wakes me up now. So I wake up in the morning, it wakes me up. It immediately tells me what my first appointment is. It tells me my action items. It probably tells me a few texts from my kids telling me what their action items for me are for the day. I go downstairs, I'm hungry, I open the fridge. My fridge told me yesterday that my milk was low, but I forgot to pick it up on the way home because I didn't get the reminder that popped up on my phone, right? So all of these interconnections are happening, and as they happen, that's where our opportunity is. The problem is that from an industry perspective, we're not adopting fast enough. I mean, I don't know about any of you. I've done, I don't know, hundreds of POCs over the last 10 years. in digital, in transformation, in change, whatever it is you want to call it. And it's really about making that change happen faster, having a dynamic ecosystem, looking at how to separate the POC from the enterprise implementation, how to take all of this massive amount of data, slice out the pieces that are going to help, and really make sure that we're escalating and implementing it faster on behalf of our customers and making them feel comfortable about it, right? Half of the battle is having the customer see the value, be able to implement the value, and take the leap. So that's what we're hoping to do. So looking at the dynamic ecosystem for industry, and Industry 4.0 specifically. I also like to talk about Society 5.0, so I'm sure we'll get there somewhere in the next couple of minutes. But focusing on the customer and using those digital enablers. And how do we use them? We want to use them to bring the ecosystem together, to deliver improved products, to experience a new customer relationship, and to make sure that we stay competitive in the marketplace. Never before in history has there been a bigger need to have alliances, to have partnerships, to bring the whole entire group together to brainstorm and to figure out how to add value within your value chain, to collaborate, and to really use these digital enablers. So looking at this diagram, this is one of my favorite new diagrams that keeps getting added into my decks. It talks about all the really important things. It talks about network connectivity, right? That's 5G, right? 5G is really going to change things for all of us. It talks about cloud versus on-prem. And I know we still have some customers that are entrenched in on-prem, but hopefully eventually we'll get everybody into the cloud. Talks about the partners that we've been talking about all this time, the operation technology companies, people like Hitachi, people like my competitors who are really looking at ways to bring OT and IT together, government who's involved right now in just about everything, and then new financial methods and methodologies. So we talked about before looking at the new business ecosystem, the new business ways of dealing. Part of that is looking at finance different as well as distribution differently. So how are we going to do it? Because there's a struggle. How are we going to reach scale? Now, this is a constant problem, right? I talked before about our POC, POV issue. It really is an issue. I don't know if you guys could raise hands. Anybody else have this issue? Because I don't know. Most of us who are in sales or in any type of leadership role see this all the time. We'll have a great POC. We then have a great proof of value. The customer sees the savings they're going to make, but there's no way to take it from, I just saved $1 million to I could save $1 billion, but that leap is so big, how do I get everybody involved? And for me, this keeps me up at night. It truly does. I wish it didn't, because I could use more sleep, but it does. So what we have found, and these are real statistics, everybody's using them, I'm sure you're gonna see them again during the presentation, is that in these industries that are named out, discrete manufacturing, transportation, logistics, utilities, they can save $40 billion each. Not one of them, but each of them, by just implementing some digital technology. We also find that only 17% that have a successful POC, I don't mean a failed POC that went wrong, but like a real successful POC, you saved a bunch of money. The rest of them don't move forward. 83% say, yeah, I saved $1 million, but who cares? So why is that? How are we going to fix that, and how are we going to change the industry? Once again, keeps me up at night. Looking at the struggle, right? Because the struggle is real. How are we going to realize these digital outcomes? What are we going to do differently? How are we going to do it? 81% of CEOs say that digital is on their agenda. Well, I'll tell you, I think most of the time it's on their agenda because the board told them it needs to be on their agenda. No offense to any CEOs in the room, but you know what I'm talking about. Every board I sit on, the board of directors is saying we have to do something in digital. Everybody's talking about digital. So POCs are a way to get to that, I did something this year, I accomplished something. But the real value is found once you implement. Companies that are early adopters have 5 times the revenue results. Why wouldn't you want to be first to the table? So it's a challenging process, right? It says 37% say that digital transformation is not a permanent item, is a permanent item on their CEO's agenda. Only 37%. I think this number should be 99%. And then 64% say that the pace of progress in their companies is far too slow. I think that should be 99% too. So this is the deal. We have to, as our customers' advocates, help them figure out how to move faster, how to move forward, how to show that value. And part of that is making sure that all of the stakeholders are involved, right? A lot of times we can have a great idea, we can have a great outcome, but if everybody isn't bought in, we aren't able to move it forward. And that's on us as the ecosystem to figure out how to do that, how to make sure that everybody is on the same page and everybody is after the same outcomes. So digital hasn't become this permanent objective, but I do believe that there are places and early adopters within every company. And every company, it's a different department. It's not always IT. It's not always human resources. It could be the mailroom that's the first adopter, right? You just don't know where you're gonna find it. For large companies that have fleets, I find that it's whoever is managing that fleet. They are the earliest adopter. If there's high energy costs, I find that it's whoever is managing those assets. So it's really about finding that entry point and then taking everybody and giving them a great big hug, basically, bringing them all in and making sure that everybody is on that same page. So how are we gonna do it? For Hitachi and Oracle, we've really found working together that co-creation is the answer to that question. Really co-creating with our customers, collaborating with our customers, looking at what their pain points are. What are they trying to overcome? What is it that keeps them up at night? And it might be different for different stakeholders. And bringing them all together. We had a recent project, and I talked about it once before when I was on stage about was a community of stakeholders, 42. And when we brought them to the table, some of them wouldn't even speak to each other. And part of the co-creation and collaboration process was getting them to talk across the table. And I'm sure you all have customers like this, you know, purchasing doesn't like legal, and legal doesn't like whoever down the road. And so because of that, the process gets broken and you never get that true buy-in. So in this particular process with 42 stakeholders, you can imagine it took a while. It really did, it took a while. But after a year, everybody signed on the dotted line, everybody had a collaborative approach, everybody feels bought in, everybody has skin in the game. And that's part of the co-creation process. It's about looking at how do you use all of your different partners, how do you use all of the different stakeholders and the customer in order to meet that business need and make that particular customer more successful, more profitable, more efficient, and quite frankly, more fun and better for humanity. So as part of Hitachi, we really believe in co-creation. We also believe in social innovation. Social innovation is kind of like Society 5.0 in a way. Our founder believed that looking at co-creation and looking at society, anything you do in business should be done in a way that benefits everybody. And if you can look at a way, and if you can look at your solution and say you're adding value to the world, then that's a good thing. So part of our partnerships are always looking at how together with our partners like Oracle, we can add value and benefit not just to our customers, not to just our bottom line, but also things that will make society a better place. So hopefully we're doing that through this co-creation journey. So with that, I would like to tell you that the next person that's going to come on stage and you're going to get to meet is Rick Jewell. He is a very nice gentleman. He's going to talk to you about supply chain. He's going to get into some of the nitty-gritty about the stuff that we do together. It's been such a pleasure once again to be here, and thank you very, very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Senior Vice President of Oracle Supply Chain, Rick Jewell.
Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I guess it is still afternoon. Thank you, Beverly, for that talk. That was very interesting. I'm going to continue on the same line of thoughts here and talk a little bit about an overall view of a supply chain, but really how some of these emerging technologies impact that. And then I'll introduce Baggett, who will get into some of the details around some of the things that we are doing here at Oracle. I think, again, echoing a lot of Beverly's comments, we're living in a time of unprecedented change right now. New business models, these emerging technologies, new approaches to IT are really, indeed, digitally transforming many, many different industries. And this happens to be a Gartner survey that was done last year that, more statistics to Beverly's point, that at least 50% of these CEOs thought that their industries were going to be digitally transformed in 2 years' time. That said, 3/4 of the chief supply chain officers, the ones who have to implement those changes, don't think there's a chance in hell they can do it. Whether that's because of the disconnected nature of the systems that they have, the inability of their current platforms to uptake new technology, or whether it's just a lack of doing process change inside the company, that's what many companies are suffering from right now, and this has to change. Now, here's some more statistics, and with a similar message. Everyone is trying to get to the pot of gold on the right upper corner of this slide. Industry 4.0, IoT, artificial intelligence, machine learning, all of those sorts of things. And obviously, based on the statistics on the upper left, many people want to try and get there. The problem is we are living in an exponentially accelerating time of technological change. And this capability gap, as we call it, is just getting worse. Now, most companies, if anything, is able to achieve a level of linear growth. But due to some of the reasons stated and some of the constraints, they're not able to accomplish that. And the gap is continuing to widen for most companies. Which is why another statistic, another survey that was done indicate that 33% of the industry leaders will be disrupted. And it will be the ones who can uptake and pass through this capability gap are going to be the disruptors. Now, to that point, that is why at Oracle we are building solutions for these emerging technologies. And that is unique. Our competition is not doing that. Yes, we have an IoT cloud, IoT platform. And yes, we have a blockchain platform. But what our competition will tell you to do is, there's our IoT platform, go bring your data scientists and go crazy. And build out all the machine learning, artificial intelligence that you'd like to. Here's your blockchain platform. Do the same thing. Build your own blockchain applications. Well, the problem with that notion is the data scientists. Number one, you need to find the data scientists. Number two, you need to be able to afford the data scientists. And then number three, you need to keep the data scientists. And that's why we believe our job is to build solutions. So rather than just last year announcing the existence of our IoT platform, we announced 5 new IoT applications, form-fitted for specific functions. We have the data scientists, so you don't have to. And you can leverage that capability from a machine learning perspective on what we provide in the form of an application on IoT. Similarly, what we did this week here is announce the availability of blockchain applications. So yes, we have a platform, but we've taken the extra step. And we announced 4 new blockchain applications, form fit for purpose, for you to be able to deploy without having a full staff of data scientists and experts in this technology yourselves. So again, what we really think it is leveraging these new best practice, best of breed capabilities and processes, and the technology advancements, and we can keep up with those, delivered on the cloud in order to be able to transform your business. And it's that combination of new process, innovation, technology, cloud, and transformation that is going to keep your company successful and leading going forward. Now, to make that digital transformation, and to echo a comment that Beverly made, is that it is all about the customer. Even more so in the 21st century, and now with these emerging technologies, it is all about the customer. So first of all, really need to be focusing on your end customer's experience. Because it's no longer selling products and services. It's about giving your customers experiences with your products. Customers don't want to buy things anymore. They want to use them. They want to be able to access them. They expect you to maintain them and deal with the issues associated with that. They're not going to buy those. They just want to be able to rent them for as long as they need things. You need to change your model and transform your model to address that. And then you need to provide really to a community of one for each one of your customers. And that's providing chatbots. That's providing mobile capabilities, some of the things that Beverly talked about, the new business models that many of the existing companies have taken on to really hyper-personalize the experience that they're having with you as a supplier. But to match with that, you need the digitally transformed enterprise. And that's across the board. That's not just in my space of supply chain. It's across the board. But it can no longer be about people anymore. It needs to be about automated decisions being made and things learning from past experience and machines actually helping to drive the experiences for customers as well as internally for employees and partners. You need to digitize your supply chain so that you really can have speed of innovation through your process. And then lastly, you need to have business networks that just work every time. And that's where a lot of blockchain comes in. So, again, to set up for Baggett to go into some of the details of what we've been working on. We have provided our applications, our core cloud applications, to address the needs of your customers, your workforce, your finance, and supply chain with data and intelligence built in to those capabilities. But similar to those applications, what we have done is provided the emerging technologies. And again, not just a platform, but applications in each of these areas, pre-integrated with our core cloud applications, automatically talking back and forth to each other out of the box, and machine learning straight out of the box, without you having to do additional effort to accomplish that. And really then, those tools, we believe, and what our responsibility is to give you those tools for you to quickly keep up with what's going on in the technology world, keep up with your competition, to be able to transform your business, rapidly apply these emerging technologies with the proven best practices that we have. So with that, I would like to introduce Baggett Nainani, who is Group Vice President responsible for our IoT and our blockchain applications. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Good afternoon. So Rick just talked to you about how we have embedded these emerging technologies and best practices into our suite of Fusion applications, SaaS applications. I'll take that a step further, and we'll talk about what's the best way to deploy these technologies and why our approach simplifies it significantly for business users. So let's start with IoT. IoT is no longer in the early adopter phase. It started around 8 to 10 years ago, but by now, a lot of companies are deploying IoT. Companies are using IoT for various types of use cases, predictive maintenance, connected assets, doing inventory monitoring, predictive maintenance, remote service delivery, things like that. So IoT is succeeding, but that's not the case for all IoT deployments. In fact, according to a recent survey, around 60% of IoT projects don't make it past the POC stage. They get stuck in trials, and they fail to justify ROI. Less than 1% of the data being collected by sensors is actually analyzed. However, the companies that do successfully deploy IoT, 73% of them are seeing benefits, business benefits, and are able to get insights from the IoT data. So what's the difference between the companies on the left who are still stuck in pilots and POCs and the ones on the right that are able to cross the chasm and get benefits from IoT? When you look at the companies on the left, most of them are still focused on onboarding things, connectivity, devices, different types of gateways, which protocols should I use, what kind of device management or over-the-air updates can I do, what kind of telemetry messages do I get, how do I control the devices, how do I create a real-time data pipeline. And they're collecting a lot of data without thinking about what will they do with that data. And because of that, you have stats like less than 1% of the data is actually used. Whereas the companies on the right, they focus on business outcomes. Right? You start with a goal in mind. You start with a business outcome that you're trying to accomplish, then determine what insights you need for those business outcomes, what KPIs you need to measure. Based on those KPIs, then you determine what kind of data I need, what kind of algorithms I need to run, and where does that data come from? Some of it may come from your existing ERP supply chain systems. Some of it may come from devices and machines. And then you determine what kind of sensors I need to collect that type of data. So you start with the business outcome and then determine the connectivity aspects. And if you do that, then you're guaranteed to get benefits such as improved operational efficiency, predictive maintenance, proactive service, things like that. So as Rick mentioned earlier, we didn't want to just stop at the platform level. So to simplify your IoT journey, we provided domain-specific applications, and we launched these a little over a year ago, focused on specific use cases within IoT. Asset monitoring, to monitor high-value assets within and outside your enterprise, to monitor health, availability, utilization, service needs. Production monitoring, to monitor the factory floor, look at the performance of the machines versus the production plan, compare performance across factories, do equipment prognostics, so you can do predictive maintenance. Fleet monitoring, to monitor vehicles, shipments, cargo, as well as driver behavior, and do things like route deviation, ETA. Connected worker for industrial workers for their safety. Service monitoring for offering product as a service. If you want to provide a remote field service or remote diagnostics when you offer products as a service for customer-owned assets. All of these are built on a common platform, and they are integrated with our existing suite of ERP and supply chain applications. So you tie them back into your core business processes. So now what I'll do is I'll spend some time and talk about how we have applied this business outcome-based approach to every feature that we have built into our IoT solution. So as you start thinking about devices in the business context, it's no longer about just the devices and protocols and device management. You have to start thinking about digital twins. Digital twin gives you a virtual representation of a physical asset and gives you a much richer interaction model. There's a lot of talk in IoT about what needs to happen on the edge and what kind of processing happens on the edge. Yes, you do need to do some computation on the edge, some in the cloud, but it's how you approach it. The way we approach it is through something called software-defined edge, where we declaratively extend your business process from your enterprise to the edge. Why does this matter? It matters because your IoT devices or your assets are not standalone. They always operate in the context of a larger business process, especially when it comes to industrial IoT. And things like digital twin give you that 360-degree view, and software-defined edge allows you to extend business processes to the edge. I mentioned digital twin. So digital twin, as I said earlier, is a digital or virtual representation of a physical asset. So you can look at the asset, its composition, its relation to other assets. You can look at the current state of the asset, past state, as well as future state based on predicted metrics. Through a single pane of glass, you can look at not just raw sensor data, but also KPIs, maintenance records, incidents, financial information. And also you can run what-if simulations. So when you have a large number of physical devices, you don't want to go and change every device to run some tests. So through the digital twin, you can create a what-if simulation and run a test with multiple devices and test out your entire business process before you actually go and change the devices. Similarly, if you're putting an over-the-air update, you can test it out on the digital twin first. So it's a very, very powerful concept. Software-defined edge. I mentioned earlier about processing that needs to happen on the edge. There's a lot of data coming from IoT devices, millions of events every minute. Around 90% of that data is actually useless 30 minutes after it's generated. So a lot of that filtering and processing can happen on the edge. It's how you do that processing that matters, right? a lot of traditional IoT platforms will provide you a mechanism to push code to the edge, to push binaries, to push Docker images. The approach we take is a declarative approach, where through a business user interface, you define the policies, you define the type of computation you want to do on the edge, then we push the instructions to the edge, and the client libraries then interpret those instructions. So 3 benefits here. Firstly, it's 0 code. And you get a rich library of functions, simple functions like mathematical functions, batching, things like that, but also more complex things like encryption, obfuscation. The other big benefit is it's easy to deploy. It's easy to manage, so it can be easily automated. And the third thing is auditable. So you know exactly what is running on which device. It's not code that you have to manage on lots of thousands of devices out there. So as we move from the edge to the cloud, how do we get meaningful insights from the data that's coming from these devices? A lot of traditional approaches rely on a rule-based approach, where you run some threshold-based rules and raise some alerts, and then you have some conditions that are generated that trigger workflows. But as you move to a business outcome-based approach, you have to go from reactive rules to model-driven AI ML. Through that, you get automatic anomaly detection. So you don't have rules. It's automatically detected. Anomalies are automatically detected. You get predictions, so you can predict certain metrics. Also, you have to think of not just using a generic toolkit of machine learning algorithms, but instead move to industry-specific KPIs, patterns that are applicable to that particular industry, that particular domain. Applied AI, where you have to look at the specific business process and understand what particular algorithms you need for that business process. Why is this important? Because by doing model-driven AI ML, you can be much more proactive. Also, if you have industry-specific KPIs and algorithms, your time to value is much shorter, because instead of starting with a generic toolkit, you start with the industry-specific algorithms, and then you start to customize them. And automated data science is always much more precise than manual tuning. So I'll take an example from supply chain, right? So when we look at the different metrics in supply chain, we sort of break them into a couple of categories. It starts with the business KPIs. Business KPIs is how you measure your outcomes, right? So it can be things like overall equipment efficiency, which, for example, is a factor of performance, availability, and quality. You use different data aggregation techniques and event processing techniques to compute that metric. From that, you move on to anomalies and predictions. Anomalies is deviation from the norm, right? So let's say a particular machine is vibrating more than normal when it's producing a certain type of product. That's an anomaly and can be automatically detected by machine learning. Prediction is predicting future state. So you may say that this particular elevator is going to fail in 5 days based on the sensor data and based on other characteristics that we are seeing. You may predict that a certain machine may go down before its next maintenance window. From that, we move on to prescriptive actions and forecasts. Prescriptive actions essentially taking the predictions and anomalies and then recommending a course of action. So let's say you have a scheduled maintenance, which you do every 4 weeks. You may decide that based on the predicted metrics and based on the anomalies, the system will tell you that certain machines should be done much earlier, maybe in the next 2 weeks, and certain machines can be pushed out. So you can optimize your overall maintenance budget. And then forecasts combine a lot of different factors and help you come up with the optimal operational model. So for example, you may look at your demand signals, you may look at your quality of the products being produced, and accordingly decide how to adjust your production plans. So how do we do this, right? So at the core of it is different types of algorithms. And you may have heard of different types of classification and regression and decision trees. These are standard algorithms available in a lot of platforms. There's Spark, TensorFlow, different languages, Java, R, Python, things like that. We have all of those in the platform. In addition to that, we have invested in time series algorithms, because IoT data, by its nature, is time series data, right? So we have partnered with a leading professor at the University of California to embed those algorithms in our product. We also have other constraint algorithms that we have got from our R&D teams, our Oracle Labs team. But once we take those algorithms, we have to apply other things. Like we have to get data from different sources. You have to do data preparation, data normalization, do feature selection, tuning, train the models, and then keep optimizing that. So what we found is to apply data science effectively, you actually need 3 types of personas to come together. There is a data scientist who understands those algorithms that I just mentioned. You have the domain expertise, the person who understands the functional domain. And Oracle, with its decades of experience in ERP, supply chain, CX, we know the core business processes, we know the business entities, and we know the features that are that matter for specific algorithms, so we are able to bring them in. And then you need the application development layer that ties it all together and creates this data pipeline. So instead of having every customer go through that whole cycle to build the solution, we have baked all of this into our applications, into the applications I showed you earlier. All of these capabilities, the applied AI ML is built into the application, where we have built-in KPIs, we have built-in prediction algorithms, anomaly detection, forecast, and most importantly, all of these insights are fed back into the SCM apps, maintenance, manufacturing, planning. Those are your systems of record, and now you can make those business processes much more efficient by feeding these metrics back in. Since we understand the business domain and we are able to effectively apply the built-in data science, we can now present you metrics in a much higher level so that a business user can understand. So for example, we look at the equipment health and we can detect a pattern that is not normal. And the system automatically suggests that pattern, and the domain expert can then decide, yes, I want to detect this in the future, or this doesn't matter. So now the system learns from it and will not suggest that in the future. It can provide an optimal maintenance schedule. Like I mentioned earlier, you can say some machine need to be maintained earlier versus others can be done later. We can predict KPIs like overall equipment efficiency. And all of these KPIs are configurable. So you can define your own formulas, you can define your own KPIs, and then for each KPI, you can define you want to detect an anomaly or whether you want us to predict it for X days in the future, right? So this is an example from supply chain. The same concept applies to our other applications as well. So far, the examples I gave you, both in the IoT space, software-defined edge, AI, ML, are all transactions that happen with your own devices and happen within the enterprise. Most companies today have a large business network, right? And they do business with a lot of trading partners, on the supply side, inbound as well as outbound. A lot of those transactions involve manual settlements, manual actions in between as the handoffs happen. There's a sort of a lack of trust between trading partners, right? And that lack of trust is mitigated by processes, right? Now with technology such as blockchain, you can move from the sort of manual verification to things like smart contracts, where now you get non-repudiable transactions, right, that are automatically verified. So you don't have to do manual verification. You can move from dispute resolution that relies on sort of manual steps to non-repudiable insights in a tamper-proof ledger. Imagine how much more efficient cross-company transactions would be if every handoff, if every transaction was rooted in implicit, irrefutable trust. This can completely change how B2B transactions and business happens across companies. Now, when you hear about blockchain, I'm sure you've heard the terms ledger and cryptography and digital signatures, zero knowledge proofs, all sorts of technical terms that for people who understand sort of the core of how blockchain is implemented. But the business benefits that folks are trying to get from these is better record keeping, expedited payments, reducing delays and inefficiencies, automation of manual steps, dispute resolution, all of that, but rooted in sort of this trust model. Right? That's what we're trying to achieve. And we want to simplify that journey of going from that technology components to actually getting these benefits. Now, you may ask, you may say, supply chains are quite mature, our business networks are mature, and companies are doing business today, so why do I need blockchain? Yes, that's true. Companies have been doing business for lots of years. But when we talk to our different customers, large and small, we find there's still a few core issues that need to be addressed when you look at multi-tier business networks. The first one is visibility. Most companies have visibility one level in the supply chain. But even best-in-class companies, in fact, there was a recent survey, 57% of best-in-class companies don't have visibility beyond one level in their supply chain. So they know their suppliers, they don't know their supplier's suppliers. And a quality issue with their supplier, which is a tier 2 supplier, will affect their product and will eventually affect their brand reputation. And that's a problem today. But with blockchain, now you can have multiple parties participating and sharing transactions that are visible to across the supply chain. Root cause analysis. When things are going well, it's all fine. But when things break down or there's a quality issue, most of the root cause analysis that's done today relies on your own systems of record. They look into their individual systems and analyze it, and then it's your word versus their word, and then lawyers get involved. With blockchain, now you can have this common shared ledger, which is tamper-proof, which you can all agree on what is the source of truth. Genealogy, chain of custody. Today, if you look at automotive or if you look at electronics, they're made up of multiple different components. And a lot of the genealogy is done through serialization. But in spite of that, companies are not able to track when certain counterfeit products enter the supply chain. Or when there's a quality issue and they have to do a recall, they end up doing a very broad recall. You must have heard, a company has a problem with certain cars, they will recall cars from 4 years. Because they're not able to exactly pinpoint which particular batch of cars needs to be, or particular products need to be recalled for a certain problem. And even if they're able to do that, they're not able to prove it to their consumers, right, in a non-repeatable way. And this is where there's a potential of sort of blockchain providing that genealogy in a shared source that everyone can trust. And then track and trace and compliance. Again, a lot of that regulatory paperwork happens manually. And you can automate all of that through smart contracts. So we wanted to make it very easy for you to deploy our blockchain platform and use it to get these benefits. So we, at this conference, as Rick mentioned, we have launched 4 blockchain applications. These are form-fitted, focused applications on in specific domains. We start with intelligent track and trace. This is about tracking goods through the supply chain, both the inbound supply chain as well as outbound, tracking handoffs, storage, and movement of goods. And you can also do traceability for root cause analysis. Lot lineage and provenance. This is about tracking the life cycle of components that go into different products, doing serialization, generation of serials, commissioning, decommissioning of serials, and then recognizing what parts went into what particular product. And if you have to have a quality problem or a recall, you can identify the exact components that are affected. Intelligent cold chain. This is about monitoring environment conditions and handoffs for temperature control products, mainly in food and beverage and pharmaceutical industry. There are also regulations coming for that. They're trying to track this across the supply chain. In fact, a lot of, now with consumer awareness, consumers are also interested in knowing where their products were sourced, where they come from, how were they handled throughout the supply chain. So intelligent cold chain helps in that. Warranty and usage tracking. This is for high-value assets, for insurance, rental, warranty needs, where you have to have an auditable and verifiable log of how that asset was used and was it used per the service contracts. All of these applications get their transactions and events from our existing ERP supply chain applications. It can be Oracle, it can be non-Oracle. We intercept the events, we intercept the transactions, put them in a shared ledger, and then correlate them. So if you may have multiple mini networks that you have, but all of them get correlated, and we can then present these insights. We are really excited about this new set of applications. The track and trace will go live early next year, and the rest of them will follow in 2019. So with that, I'd like to invite Jasper Potts. Jasper Potts is an architect on our team, and he'll show you a cool demo of IoT and supply chain applications.
Thank you. So over the last couple of months, we've been working on putting together a cool demonstration to show you. The idea was to put together a mini factory so we can actually sort of show you a lot of the software and the apps we've been talking about in action. So the factory has a ordering iPad, so we can play the customer, and then we have a vision camera, a robot arm for pick and place, a conveyor belt with a laser engraver, and a camera for quality assurance. We even have a light tower like we're a real machine. Okay. So let me start as the customer. So as the customer, I can say, yes, please create me a coaster. And now I'm going to get my choice. So we have 4 different materials and 4 different designs to choose from. So I can put my name in the top. It's going to personalize it for me. Oop. And Apple decided to auto-complete it for me. And so as I choose the different materials or the different designs, it's going to show me a preview. So I'm going to go for the button-up and the cloud. That's my favorite. And so I can place my order. So now the customers place their order into our system with their choices of their personalized product that they would like us to make. So that's where our order process starts. So then we have our, Olivia, who's our order management specialist. So she can come into Order Management Cloud and see all of the work orders that are pending. So she can see which are pending and which are complete, and then drill in and start to look. So she can see the latest customer order that's come in and all the details. So I've ordered a button-up beer coaster, and you can see it's for me, for Jasper. We can then go in and see the orchestration process of what the personalization process, what machining process is going to happen, that we're going to cut it out and engrave it, and then ship it and invoice and so forth. So then we go on to Pete, our production planner. So he can come in, and his job is to look at what are the raw materials, what do we need to have available so that we can produce these customers' orders and get them in time. So he uses Planning Cloud, and here it's going to show that so we have demand at risk. So there's a risk that we can't fulfill all of the customers' custom orders. And so it highlights at the bottom the custom orders that have come in, and we can see that that's going to be a problem area. So he can then go through, and he gets recommendations of what he can do. So the Planning Cloud is going to recommend that he needs to expedite the order for getting more materials in. So he can go through and action that. And so we're going to order another 750 sheets of maple and walnut, so we have plenty of materials in to fulfill all of those customer orders. So then it's over to Frank's job. So Frank's job is to make the whole factory run, and he's our factory manager and make sure everything's running smoothly. So off we kick our process now. So here's our digital twin. So our digital twin is showing us as the robot is picking up the coaster I ordered. So we have all the different materials and stuff. So it's chosen the one that I specifically ordered, and it's placing that on the conveyor belt so that we can engrave it. And then so Manufacturing Cloud is showing us any open issues and the work orders and any work orders that are past due. So we can come in here. So this is our next sort of digital twin. So we have IoT Asset Monitoring Cloud. And so this is showing us a digital twin of the laser engraver. So at the moment, it's just working out where exactly the coaster is on the conveyor belt so that it can engrave. And there off it goes. So now it's actually engraving my name and personalizing that coaster for me. Meanwhile, the digital twin is showing me in real time. So if I'm not here looking at the machine, I can be monitoring in real time what it's doing, see the exact machine code instructions that it's executing, and see that it's engraving the time and date and my name on the coaster. So Frank can also have a look at, using Production Monitoring Cloud, the whole factory. So he can look at this particular plan and see all the machines involved and see that the laser engraver might have problems, and he can dive in. And so he can see that the AI and machine learning has detected an anomaly. So it's been looking at the power usage of the laser, and it's learned from previous examples that if we see spikes in the power usage, then that can be potential indication that the laser diode is going to fail. So it's predicting that we have a 100% chance here that the laser diode is going to fail in the near future. So he can then come back and see all the other available machines that are there that can do the job, how much idle time they have, whether they're in maintenance coming up to be due, and he can pick another machine to replace that in the production so that we don't have any delays and don't have any outages in our production. So then through the digital thread, that fact that it's detected that there's going to be an issue has automatically created a work order, and so he can now come into Maintenance Cloud and give a priority to that work order, assign that work order out to people to actually go and fix that laser while it's offline so it can get back online and keep production going as quickly as possible. So now we go over to quality assurance. And so now we're moving over to Quentin and our quality assurance side. So we're moving the coaster over under our camera. So here we can use AI and computer vision to determine, was this the word, was this the design that the customer ordered, has the name and everything been engraved appropriately? And so he can come in to Quality Cloud and see any issues that are open for him, anything that's been previously come up that didn't go through correctly. And he can go into each of those work orders and see what the details are. So then we have Wade, who's our warehouse manager. So this is Wade's responsibility is looking after all the inventory. So that's both the inventory of all our incoming materials and all of our orders waiting to go out to customers. So he can look into our inventory management cloud and see all of the shipping lines and what's waiting to be shipped out to customers. He can see each of those in detail. And then the actual shipping goes over to Sally, our shipment specialist. So now she can actually see that I need to now deliver this coaster to me in Atlanta by the Peach. And then so we actually have our miniature version of our shipping. So we're over to Fleet Monitoring Cloud. And it's shipped all the way to Atlanta, well, the other side of the stage. But and so Fleet Monitoring Cloud gives us a real-time view, so we can see all of our shipments in process. We can see if there's any trucks that are having issues, any delays in shipments. We can see the ETAs of all of our shipments and keep real-time tracking to make sure our customers are happy. So we can come up. And so it's made me a coaster. And if you want to get one for yourself, there's 4 different designs and 4 different materials, and we have a setup both in the South Hall and in the West Hall, and you can go over and order yourself one on the iPad, and the robot will make you a coaster. So go and have fun and make yourself a coaster. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Vice President, Enterprise Applications, Hitachi Consulting, John Hallen.
Wow, what a tough act to follow. Isn't that exciting what you can do with Oracle technologies? It's amazing. I want you to also check out that Jasper is an expert at this. He's done a Steamwork chocolate factory. So check that one out. It's out on YouTube. This is just fantastic, the kind of things he can do. So my goal in this part of the presentation is to talk about getting past the proof of concept. Have you leave today with some confidence that with a partner of Oracle and a system integrator like Hitachi, that you're going to be successful, right? Now, what you saw today is, at the start, we talked about all this despair. We can't get out of the POC. I'm here to tell you you can. And I think with the announcements that Oracle has shown is that they're not going to give you just a platform. They're going to give you capabilities. And with all of the technologies that we have today, those capabilities are going to start driving value. So that's the key word, value. I'm sure all of you, when you got on the plane, had to justify some value of this trip. It was a pretty simple equation. It was, will you come back to your business with something that is going to either generate more revenue, please your customers, or reduce costs? In fact, when I was talking to my daughter about this, my daughter's working to be an aerospace engineer, and she just loves this phrase, it's not rocket science. And that's a lot of what this presentation is going to be about. It's about finding that value, which is pretty simple. It's the equation of increase your revenue or reduce your costs. Now, Hitachi is a great partner for you. We have over 199,000 patents in the IoT space. In fact, it's kind of fun. I was, in preparation for this meeting, I was looking at what we do. If you were to understand what we can do in an RFID capability, we're able to build the smallest RFID chip that exists today. We can put it on the back of a bee. And we can help the world, as Beverly said, do a study around what is the conditions of that bee as we understand the collapse of bee colonies and what that does to our supply chain, our food supply chains, right? Now think about that. That RFID chip has to survive all those conditions. It's going to be surviving wind, rain, sun, and it's got to be able to fit on that plane, on that bee, so that it can take off, right? And we don't know where that bee is going to go, but we do know that it's going to come back to its hive, and we're going to be able to study it and prove some value from that. So that's where that triple bottom line comes in, where we can create value that is good for our businesses and good for society. So again, it begins that digital journey. This is what I would like to share some insights with you. Begins with what CEOs and boardrooms demand, and is to create shareholder wealth. And that is through enhanced revenue generation or improve your cost efficiencies. With Oracle and Hitachi, you can do both. The digital evolution is enabled by Oracle, and what it is creating a new equation, right? There's a paradigm shift that we all have to be a part of. As Beverly is describing, that paradigm shift is something that at times has made us not able to get past that POC and into creating value because we're not embracing it enough. This paradigm shift, this massive change, means that we're moving from products to outcomes. We're going from owned to shared. When I drove to the airport and I took my Toyota Tacoma to the airport and left it there, it's a wasted asset for the whole week I'm here. Why aren't I sharing that and making that asset something of value for that week that is going to be sitting in a parking space that I'm paying for? Right? It goes from closed to open. It's from individual to group optimization. So there's some incredible optimization that we can create in a triple bottom line. Oracle can help digital be less a thing, digital being a thing, to more a way of doing things. The paradigm shift includes changing and extending the calculus. So we used to talk about physical value streams, and as Bhagat showed you, it's not just physical, we can make a digital twin of that physical, right? And we can model that in a digital value stream. So we can take physical, add it to digital, and create new unlocked business value. One of our customers is a large manufacturer of metals. They move massive metal coils in their warehouse. One of the problems they had was how long it takes to move those, and there's some safety considerations. So the challenge was, it takes us 12 minutes to do a setup. What can we do? Well, with the capabilities of digital visualizations on the cranes, so cameras on the cranes, with sensors, with vibration capabilities, all the different kind of data that we could collect, we helped that metals manufacturer move the changeover times from 12 minutes to 1 minute. Fantastic, right? Well, what made it even better, and something that we could get users to adopt, because remember, this change is people and process, not just the technology, was that the people benefited. So that we made that warehouse safer, and that made it easy to embrace. So, you know, a lot of times the challenge is, do you want to do this? And our users are going to resist because change is hard. Now, they wanted this because they saw the benefit, the safety that we were going to create for them in this new paradigm. The new calculus can create some pretty big payoffs. So in the IT/OT space, I can tell you, as Bhagat showed, we've worked with a healthcare provider to create a cold chain. So I think many of you probably had a flu shot this season. 25% of those flu shots could have been compromised by temperature as it was shipped. The temperature is important for that flu shot, so it has the maximum value as you take it to improve your life, right? We're working with a healthcare provider to create that cold chain where we induct all the data that we know about the life of the high-value pharmaceuticals so that we can avoid those kind of issues. In the space of pattern discovery, we've helped a textile manufacturer create new capacity. So they came to us and said, our airjet looms are the best in the world, but we can't get more out of them yet. Everything we do, we seem to get the same capacity, same capacity, same capacity. So what we did is we worked with them to convert 5 years of data across 6 attributes, and then to continue to collect data across those 6 attributes. What we found was we could create new capacity that didn't exist before because of the pattern matching that we could do to find the optimal in terms of the tension of the thread as we're looming textiles. So capacity that didn't exist before we created because of technologies that Oracle enables. Machine learning. For a leasing company, we've developed various machine learning models that are collecting real-time data. So as these truck fleets are traveling around the world, it's not just condition or old school paradigms on maintenance. And we have, through that, driven incredible value for our customer in that predictive maintenance. In the space of continuous improvements, we had a bottle manufacturer that had a $150 million problem. Every year, they lose $150 million of value that is just simply that they lose pallets. So again, the technology is there. We needed to get out of a proof of concept. We put RFID chips on the pallets. We did the measurements of those pallets through the entire process, from when we organize the shipment through its shipment itself to when we unpack that shipment. We now know exactly what happened to that shipment, so we're reducing from the start. Plus, we've enabled root cause analysis, and we're creating $150 million of value for that bottler manufacturer. So again, Oracle and Hitachi can help improve that bottom line, that P&L, that your balance sheet, and gain competitive advantage, that triple bottom line. So your roadmap is pretty simple to valuation. To creating value. You know, my daughter, who's the aerospace engineer, loves this phrase of it's not rocket science, and this is exactly what you're going to see here today. Bite-sized. Start with something that you can do. So, for example, instead of doing an RFID for an entire warehouse across all your supply chain, start with the receiving process. Do something that you can create immediate value. Find something that you can leverage. As Bhagat said, make sure you, and Rick pointed out, do something that is based on need, not just on technology. So it's very exciting what we can do here, but also make sure it's based on need. What you'll find is that Oracle has enabled, and that you're going to start creating value that we can use and take to the market. Now here's what's pretty exciting. This is kind of a busy slide, but at the top of this you'll see all of the applications, and these are not just platforms, these are domain, industry-based applications across PLM, order management, procurement, manufacturing that Oracle brings. And if you look at this table, 5 of the 7 capabilities you need in order to make that table work across your supply chain are something that Hitachi can enable. So we've got your sensors, we've got your gateways. We know how to work with IoT platforms. We have expertise in the applications and integrating those applications, making them work. And we can do all that in a PaaS and SaaS platform. So here's the challenge. Hitachi is a company that is 107 years of age, operational technologies. When it comes to lean manufacturing, we invented it, we've refined it, and with digital, we can work with you to make it the best. We also have 55 years of IT capabilities, highly engineered, best in class in terms of our IT capabilities, and a 20-year relationship with Oracle, where we've been working with Oracle to deliver huge value to our customers. We have, as Hitachi, something like 193 manufacturing facilities, 193 as Hitachi. So we've been there like you have, in terms of making those challenges and going past what's a proof of concept and past what can be put into a PowerPoint and actually having it be something that we can deliver with our hard hat and steel toe on. We are definitely the IoT, the industrial IoT partner of record. So in closing, meeting the challenges of the dynamic ecosystem will require a new mindset of collaboration and co-creation to meet Industry 4.0 needs. Oracle offers comprehensive and unified SaaS suite. Together with Oracle IoT and AI and blockchain apps, Oracle drives business outcomes and enables digital transformations. New business models, new operation models, and real innovation in a rapid time frame is needed to stay competitive. Co-creation and the belief that is working as customers to innovate and co-create is the best way to impact everyone's bottom line. Make sure you do this with a partner. We have been through those challenges of the POCs. As Beverly has said, we know how to get out, right? And we know how to get to where you're creating value, which is, I know, as you return home and you make the business case for your trip to Oracle, you will go home with confidence that Oracle has amazing technologies and you've got partners that can help you make business value. And that's really where the magic is for Hitachi and Oracle. With Hitachi as an industrial entity and Oracle as a technology entity, really we've got everything you need in order to find success in digital, blockchain, and IoT. Thanks everybody for coming today.